The Holy One, blessed be He, welcome to Beit Yisrael International's Voice of Torah podcast. I'm Gadi Ephraim and I'm honored to guide you on this journey of divine teachings. Today we delve into the inspiring lessons of Tikkun Brit Hadshah as illuminated by Parshat Vayeshev with our host, agents Abraham and Sarah. Our focus is on the transformative idea from baseless hatred to baseless love, through teshuvah, baseless love, and the teachings of Tzaddikim. We are called to overcome division and work toward ultimate redemption. Jewish Yeshua HaTzaddik, in the role of Mashiach ben Yosef, represents the collective soul of Israel, enduring its suffering and working to heal its divisions. Through teachings of love, forgiveness, and humility, he provides a path to transcend baseless hatred and foster Ahavat Unconditional love, uniting the people of Israel and hastening the ultimate redemption. Thank you for joining me today on Beit Yisrael International's Voice of Torah podcast. May the lessons of Parshat Vayeshev inspire each of us to grow in understanding, compassion, and dedication to the divine mission that shapes our lives. Together, through teshuvah and baseless love, may we hasten the ultimate redemption. Blessings to all, and until next time, may your journey in Torah and truth be filled with light.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to dive deep into the relationship between Jacob and Joseph.
Woo!
In Jewish thought.
I like it.
You probably know the stories from the Bible, but
Yeah. Well,
we're going to go a little deeper.
beyond the surface level.
Yeah, and explore how this dynamic between father and son holds a deeper meaning,
Right.
especially when it comes to tikkun.
Yes.
This idea of restoring the world,
Mm-hmm.
and also the role of a tzaddik,
Okay.
a righteous person
Yeah.
who acts as a bridge between the divine and the material world.
A tzaddik is someone who embodies the will of God.
Right.
And they kind of act as a bridge between
Yeah.
the spiritual
Yeah.
and the physical.
So fascinating, right? We think of Jacob and Joseph, and it's like a family drama,
Yeah.
but it's really a blueprint
It's so much more than that.
for understanding our place
Yeah.
in the universe.
Where do we even begin with all this?
Well, it all starts with one verse
Okay.
in Genesis 37:2. This is the history of the generations of Jacob.
Joseph.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Right.
What's so special about that?
On the surface,
Yeah.
it might seem like just genealogy, you know?
Right, a family tree.
But
Yeah.
in Jewish thought, every single word of Torah is significant.
Right.
The way that Joseph is introduced here,
Okay.
almost like an addendum to Jacob's story,
Yeah.
it's actually really loaded with meaning.
So how do different Jewish traditions interpret this verse?
Okay, so in the Midrash,
Okay.
and also in Chassidut and in Kabbalah,
Mm-hmm.
this phrasing that we see here,
Right.
this unique phrasing,
Yeah.
it points to a deep spiritual unity between Jacob and Joseph,
Mm-hmm.
a continuity of divine purpose.
Oh, okay.
It suggests that Joseph isn't just
Yeah.
Jacob's biological son. He
Right.
also inherits
Yeah.
and carries forward Jacob's spiritual mission.
So it's not just family lineage, it's a spiritual inheritance
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this idea that we see here,
of passing the torch
Right.
from father to son, this spiritual legacy
Yeah.
that's carried forward.
Okay.
This is even seen as extending to Yeshua
Hold on.
in the Tikkun Brit Hadshah.
So we're connecting Torah to the New Testament now.
We'll call the New Testament.
Okay.
We call it the Tikkun Brit Hadshah.
I see.
So how does that work?
Yeah, how does that work?
Okay, so the Tikkun Brit Hadshah,
Mhm.
it traces Yeshua's lineage all the way back to Jacob and Joseph.
Mm.
It creates a direct line from those ancient patriarchs
I see.
to Yeshua's mission.
So you're
Yeah.
using Tikkun Brit Hadshah instead of New Testament.
Because
Because why?
the term Tikkun Brit Hadshah
Right.
translates to rectification of the new covenant.
Hmm.
And it reflects this idea
Uh-huh.
that this text is part of the ongoing process of
Yeah.
cocoon, of repairing and perfecting the world,
Okay.
which began with the Torah.
It emphasizes the continuity between the two.
Okay, so we have this father-son dynamic
Right.
that goes beyond just a simple family relationship.
Exactly.
It represents
Yeah.
a spiritual lineage.
A shared mission to contribute to Tikkun.
Right.
It's not just about family.
Exactly.
It's about something much deeper.
So this brings us to the Tzaddik.
Yes.
Remind me again, what
Right.
exactly is a Tzaddik?
So a Tzaddik is a righteous person
Uh-huh.
who embodies divine will,
Okay.
and they act as a bridge
Right.
between the spiritual
Oh.
and material worlds.
Yeah.
Think of them like spiritual guides,
Right.
helping humanity
Yeah.
move closer to that state of Tikkun.
So how do Jacob and Joseph fit into this idea?
Okay, so the Tanya,
Okay.
which is a key text in the
Mhm.
Shabbat philosophy,
Wow.
it teaches that a son inherits his father's spiritual essence and carries out his will
Okay.
in the world.
So Joseph is essentially carrying out Jacob's spiritual will.
Yes.
And how does this connect to Yeshua?
In the Tikkun Brit Hadshah,
Okay.
Yeshua speaks about his unity with God the Father.
Right.
And it echoes this concept of a son inheriting and fulfilling
Uh-huh.
the Father's will, aligning with this idea of the Tzaddik.
Okay, so we see this father-son dynamic playing out on multiple levels.
Yes.
Jacob and Joseph,
Uh-huh.
God and Yeshua,
Right.
and even the idea of a Tzaddik carrying out
Yeah.
the divine will in the world.
Exactly.
But there's this repeating pattern
It's a beautiful pattern.
throughout history,
Yes.
across different traditions.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's within this pattern that we
Yeah.
can start to understand
Mhm.
this concept of Mesiras Nefesh,
Yes.
self-sacrifice for a higher purpose.
Right. And that is a central theme
Yes,
in both Joseph and Yeshua's stories.
absolutely.
Think about Joseph being sold into slavery by his brothers.
Yeah.
Or Yeshua. These are powerful examples of
Yeah.
Mesiras Nefesh.
But how do we connect these grand acts of self-sacrifice
Right.
to our everyday lives?
That's a great question.
It's not like we're all going to face situations like that.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean?
We may not face those dramatic trials,
Right.
but this concept of Mesiras Nefesh
Yeah.
isn't just about these grand gestures. It's
Yeah.
about the daily choices
Uh-huh.
that we make
Yeah.
to align our will
Okay.
with a higher purpose,
Yeah.
even in small ways.
So even small acts of kindness,
Yes.
choosing to do what's right, even when it's difficult,
Exactly.
that can be a form
It can be a form
of Mesiras Nefesh.
of Mesiras Nefesh.
Wow.
It's about recognizing that spark of divinity within ourselves
Yeah.
and choosing to act in a way
Right.
that brings more light and goodness into the world, no matter how small the act.
And that brings us back to Tikkun.
Yes, it does.
How so?
Each act of Mesiras Nefesh,
Wow.
each time we choose to act selflessly or to stand up for what's right,
Yeah.
we contribute to the healing and the restoration
Of
of
what?
the world.
I see.
We become part of that ongoing process of tikkun.
This is all starting to make sense. So we've established this link
Uh-huh.
between Jacob and Joseph.
Yeah.
This concept of Tikkun,
Yes.
the role of the Tzaddik.
Right.
But what are some of the deeper insights we can get
Okay.
from Jacob and Joseph's dynamics specifically?
All right.
Their relationship wasn't always
Yeah.
smooth sailing, was it?
It was full of conflict,
Right.
betrayal,
Yeah.
ultimately reconciliation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's within those complexities that we find some of the most powerful lessons about Tikkun
Okay.
and the role of the Tzaddik.
I'm ready to dive in.
Let's do it.
Let's unpack it.
Let's unpack it.
See what kind of wisdom we can find.
I love it. So one of the most striking things
Yeah.
in their story
Uh-huh.
is Joseph's forgiveness
Right.
of his brothers.
After all they put him through,
Right.
they sell him into slavery.
Yeah.
And he not only forgives them,
He does.
he saves them.
He does.
Oh, yeah.
Powerful embodiment of Tikkun.
That's a great point.
Right.
It highlights the transformative power
Yes.
of forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
not just for the individual,
Yeah.
but for the entire community.
That's right.
Like it creates this ripple effect,
Yes.
outward restoring harmony and wholeness.
And this is where we see the connection
Mhm.
between Tikkun and the Tzaddik.
Right.
So clearly the
Yeah.
Tzaddik doesn't just talk about forgiveness.
Right.
They embody it.
Yeah.
They demonstrate its power
I see.
through their actions.
So Joseph, in forgiving his brothers,
Yeah.
he's acting as a Tzaddik,
Yes.
a channel for that divine energy
Mm-hmm.
to flow
Yeah.
into the world.
Beautiful.
And in doing so, he's participating
Yes.
in Tikkun.
Actively participating.
Yeah, the mending of the world.
Mm.
And think about the impact.
Yeah.
Not only does it save his family,
Mm-hmm.
it allows the Israelites to flourish.
Yeah. To thrive.
Egypt.
Sets the stage
Right.
for the Exodus
Wow.
and the receiving of the Torah.
That's incredible.
Right.
It really makes you realize
Yeah.
how personal acts of forgiveness can have far-reaching consequences.
They can,
Yeah.
contributing to a larger unfolding of divine purpose.
Wow.
It's a reminder
Yeah.
that we're all interconnected. Our choices,
Right.
even those that seem small
Yeah.
or personal, can have a ripple effect,
Yeah.
influencing the course of history.
But let's be honest.
Yeah.
Forgiveness isn't easy.
No, it's not.
It can be really difficult, especially
Especially-
when we've been hurt.
Deeply hurt.
You know,
You're right.
really hurt.
Forgiveness is a process.
Yeah.
It takes time.
Yeah.
It takes effort.
Yeah.
But Joseph's story shows us that it's
Okay.
possible. And more importantly, it shows us the transformative power it holds.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Maybe that's one of the lessons we can learn
Yeah.
from Jacob and Joseph.
Yeah.
It's not just about
Uh-uh.
a father and son reconciling.
It's bigger than that.
It's a demonstration
Yeah.
of how forgiveness,
Yes.
this core element of tikkun,
Right.
can heal wounds,
Yeah.
create a more just
A more compassionate.
and compassionate world.
Yes.
It's not just forgiveness that we see here.
Right.
There's also this theme of resilience.
Of overcoming adversity.
Yeah. Think about how both Jacob and Joseph
Yeah.
faced challenges.
They did?
Jacob wrestled with God,
Right.
struggled with his brother,
He did.
endured the loss of his wife.
His beloved wife, Rachel.
Joseph was betrayed by his brothers,
Bruh.
sold into slavery,
Yeah.
unjustly imprisoned,
Right.
but they both persevered,
Yeah.
never losing sight
Of their faith.
of their faith and
Yeah.
ultimately fulfilling their destinies. What a powerful reminder
Right.
that even when we face hardship,
Yeah.
when things seem dark,
Uh-huh.
hopeless,
Yeah.
there's always the possibility
Always.
for redemption,
Yes.
growth,
The tikkun.
for tikkun.
It's there.
Their stories highlight the importance
Yeah.
of trusting
In the unfolding.
in the
of that.
unfolding of divine purpose,
Even when we can't see the bigger picture.
even when we can't see it.
Surrendering to the process.
Yeah.
Knowing that even the most painful experiences
Right.
can lead to growth
Yeah.
and transformation.
So Jacob and Joseph's struggles become a model
A model for us.
for our own.
Yeah.
They show us it's okay to stumble,
It's okay.
to question,
If-
experience doubt and pain.
To go through those hard things.
Right.
Right.
What matters is we keep moving forward,
Yes. Keep going.
trusting that even our mistakes, setbacks,
Yeah.
can be part of tikkun.
They can be part of the process.
This brings us back to the idea
Yes.
that we all have the potential
We do.
to embody the qualities
We all have that potential.
of a tzaddik.
Yeah.
It's not about being perfect
No.
or avoiding hardship.
It's about aligning ourselves
Right.
with that divine energy of
Yeah.
tikkun,
Right.
even in the midst of our struggles.
So it's not about being a tzaddik
Yeah.
in some grand superhuman way.
No, not at all.
It's about making choices in our daily lives
In our everyday lives.
that reflect those qualities of compassion,
Yeah.
forgiveness,
Oh, and zillions.
and resilience.
Right.
It's about recognizing those opportunities
Yeah.
to bring more light,
More goodness,
goodness into the world,
no matter how small.
no matter how small.
It may seem.
It's about choosing kindness
Yes.
over judgment,
Forgiveness over resentment.
hope over despair.
Beautiful.
And in doing so, we become participants
We do.
in that ongoing process
Of tikkun.
of tikkun,
Yes.
mending and perfecting the world.
It's a beautiful and empowering message.
It is.
It is.
It reminds us that we're not just passive observers in this world.
We're active participants.
We're active participants in its unfolding.
Yeah.
We each have a role to play,
A unique contribution.
a unique contribution to make.
Yeah,
That's the most profound takeaway
I think so.
from Jacob and Joseph's story. It's not just a tale from ancient times.
Yeah.
It's a timeless reflection
It's a mirror.
of our own potential for growth,
Yes.
transformation.
Connection to the divine.
It invites us to look at our own lives.
Yeah.
Ask ourselves,
Yeah. What are those questions?
how can I embody the qualities of a tzaddik?
Beautiful.
How can I contribute to tikkun?
How can I bring more light?
How can I bring more light and goodness into the world?
Wow. Powerful questions.
Powerful questions to consider
They are.
as we reflect on these questions.
Yeah.
It's important to remember
Yes.
we're not alone in this journey.
We are not alone.
This deep dive into Jacob and Joseph,
Yeah.
it's really revealed so much about tikkun,
It has.
the tzaddik, and our own potential to make a difference.
I think so.
It feels like we've uncovered
Yeah.
a whole new layer of meaning.
A whole new layer within a story we thought we knew.
Right.
Yeah.
And for you listening in,
Yeah.
how has this resonated with you?
How has this exploration landed?
What insights have you gained
Yeah.
from this story?
From Jacob and Joseph.
Jacob and Joseph.
This is better.
The idea of Tikkun.
What stands out?
Maybe you've been inspired by Joseph's forgiveness,
Yes.
recognizing the potential for healing and transformation
In our own lives.
in your own relationships.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Maybe you connected with the theme of resilience,
Yeah.
finding strength in Jacob and Joseph,
Overcoming adversity.
overcoming adversity.
Fulfilling their destiny.
Right, and fulfilling their destinies.
Yeah.
Maybe you've been struck by the idea that we all have the potential
We do.
to be a Tzaddik,
To embody those qualities.
to be a force for good,
Yeah.
no matter how small our actions.
That doesn't have to be big.
Whatever resonates with you,
Right.
hold on to those insights.
Let it inform you.
Let them inform your journey.
Your journey.
We're tackling something pretty heavy, baseless hatred.
Ooh, that's a big one.
It is, and we're going to explore its roots in Jewish history and tradition.
Okay.
And get this, how it connects to our world today.
So ancient wisdom meets modern problems.
Exactly. And our guide for this deep dive, the perspective of Beit Yisrael International and their leader, Gadi Ephraim. Their notes offer this unique lens, weaving traditional Jewish sources with a focus on Mashiach ben Yosef. Might be new territory for some of us.
Definitely for me. Let's hear it.
So they start with a story we all know, Yosef and his brothers. You know, the coat, the jealousy.
Oh, yeah, the whole drama.
Well, Beit Yisrael sees this as the very seed of baseless hatred in Jewish thought.
A family feud is the foundation for such a huge concept.
I know, right? It seems like a big leap.
It does.
So help me understand. How does a family drama become a cornerstone of Jewish thought?
It goes beyond just sibling rivalry, you see. The sages connect this story to a pivotal moment in Jewish history. They saw it as a symbolic turning point for Jewish identity and even their fate. They draw a line from the rejection of Yosef all the way to the destruction of the Second Temple.
Whoa, wait, hold on a second. One act of, let's be honest, pretty messed up family dynamics?
Yeah.
How can that echo through generations to that extent?
It's a good question. Beit Yisrael dives deep into the commentaries and interpretations. The sages didn't just see it as a family squabble. They saw the rejection of Yosef's unique gifts and his role, his potential to bring everyone together, as rejecting a divine plan. They argue this created a spiritual rift, which led to disunity, internal strife, and ultimately vulnerability to the forces that destroyed the temple.
So it's not just the act itself, but what it represents on a deeper level, like rejecting potential for good. I'm starting to see how our choices have these ripple effects.
Exactly.
Okay, but I got to ask, where does this Jewish Yeshua HaTzaddik come in? That term isn't something I'm super familiar with.
Yeah, that's a core part of Beit Yisrael's perspective.
Yeah.
They see Yeshua's life and teachings, particularly as understood within their tradition, through the lens of Yosef's experience.
I see.
Both faced rejection and hatred from their own people, but Beit Yisrael sees Yeshua's mission as a direct response to that destructive force of baseless hatred.
So more than a historical parallel, they see Yeshua's mission as an antidote to the brokenness that started with Yosef's rejection.
You got it.
Wow, that's a powerful connection. But can you unpack Jewish Yeshua HaTzaddik a bit?
Sure thing.
What does that mean exactly for those of us who aren't familiar with that specific interpretation?
Yeshua HaTzaddik translates to Yeshua the Righteous One. Beit Yisrael acknowledges the many different ways people understand Yeshua across different faiths. But they focus on his teachings and life as rooted in Jewish tradition, emphasizing his Jewish identity as a teacher and a tzaddik, a righteous individual. They see him continuing the legacy of figures like Yosef, advocating for qualities like love, forgiveness, and unity.
Okay, that's helpful context. So we're seeing a through line here from Yosef's rejection to Yeshua's mission. But how does Beit Yisrael define unconditional love? And how does that tie into all of this?
Well, they go beyond just defining it as a feeling. Unconditional love, for them, is a powerful force for change, a way to heal past wounds, and even hasten the gula, the ultimate redemption.
Wait, Gula? That doesn't sound like your average happily ever after. What exactly are we talking about here?
You're right, it's a bit more complex than that. Gula, in Jewish thought, refers to this multifaceted concept of redemption. It's liberation from exile, the arrival of the Messianic era, and restoring the world to a state of harmony and divine presence. Beit Yisrael sees unconditional love as an essential part of making this gula happen.
So it's about individual and collective transformation leading to a more ideal world.
Exactly. It's not just a feel-good sentiment.
Got it. But let's go back to Yosef for a second. Where does forgiveness fit into all of this?
Yeah.
He ultimately forgave his brothers.
Yeah.
Exactly. Both Yosef forgiving his brothers and Yeshua's teachings of love and forgiveness are powerful examples of choosing love over resentment. It's about breaking the cycle of hatred and allowing for healing.
I see the connection, but honestly, forgiveness, especially after such a deep betrayal,
It's tough.
it can feel impossible.
Yeah.
How does Beit Yisrael address that very human struggle?
Yeah, it's not easy. Beit Yisrael emphasizes that forgiveness is a process,
Okay.
not a switch you just flip on. It takes deep inner work, confronting our pain, choosing to let go of revenge or retribution.
That makes sense. It's a journey.
It is.
But still feels like a tall order sometimes.
That can be.
You know.
Absolutely.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. There's another theme in the notes that really stood out to me.
Okay.
The critique of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Where does that fit into this conversation about hatred and redemption?
That's a key point that bridges traditional Jewish thought with Beit Yisrael's interpretation of Yeshua. The notes draw parallels between Yeshua's criticism of hypocrisy and what we find in the Talmud and Midrash. They both warn against emphasizing external displays of piety over genuine inner transformation.
So less about checking boxes or appearing righteous, more about actually living out our values.
Exact.
That resonates with me. But how do we cultivate that inner transformation?
Right.
It can't be as simple as just being a good person.
No, it's much deeper than that. Beit Yisrael emphasizes self-reflection, honestly assessing our motivations and behaviors.
Makes sense.
And they point to practices like prayer, meditation, and studying sacred texts as ways to connect with ourselves and cultivate qualities like humility, compassion, and empathy.
So it's about actively cultivating those qualities.
Yes.
Not assuming we're just good or bad people by default.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you so far. But it brings up another question for me. We've talked about the rejection both Yosef and Yeshua faced.
Right.
Why would people hate those who are genuinely trying to do good, to bring light into the world?
That's something Beit Yisrael grapples with head-on. They suggest that the hatred directed at Tzaddikim, those righteous people, often stems from the very light they embody.
Interesting.
That light can be illuminating,
Yeah.
but it can also be revealing, exposing those shadows within ourselves and society that we might prefer to keep hidden.
So it's not always conscious, malicious hatred, but maybe a reaction to feeling exposed,
Yeah.
challenged by someone who embodies a way of being that we might fall short of.
That's the idea.
That's fascinating. Do they give any examples of how this played out besides Yosef and Yeshua?
They do. They point to a ton of examples throughout Jewish history of Tzaddikim who faced opposition and even persecution,
Oh, wow.
often from those who felt threatened by their message or way of life.
Interesting.
The notes highlight how these individuals, by challenging the status quo or pointing out hypocrisy, triggered resistance, even from within their own communities.
It makes you think, is that a pattern that keeps repeating throughout history, even today? Are we still rejecting those who challenge us to be better, confront difficult truths?
It's a good question to consider.
For sure. But let's circle back to Yosef for a moment. That one act that started this chain of events, the sale of Yosef by his brothers.
Mm-hmm.
How does Beit Yisrael view that specific event in this larger conversation?
They see it as a turning point, a collective stain on Jewish history that needs ongoing healing.
Mm-hmm.
They connect this to the concept of tikkun olam, the idea of repairing the world.
Okay.
They suggest that this repair goes beyond fixing external problems. It's about addressing the root causes, the internal brokenness that led to those actions in the first place.
So acknowledging past wrongs, not sweeping them under the rug, but actively working to repair the damage, individually and collectively.
You got it.
Wow, I'm seeing all these pieces fit together now, from personal transformation to social justice. But what about those who don't necessarily share Beit Yisrael's specific interpretations, particularly around Yeshua? How do their teachings resonate with a broader audience?
That's where their emphasis on universal values comes in. While their perspective is rooted in Jewish tradition, Beit Yisrael emphasizes the shared human longing for connection, meaning, and purpose.
Okay.
They believe that the principles of love, forgiveness, and unity go beyond any specific religion or culture.
So it's less about conversion, more about finding common ground, building bridges of understanding.
Right.
That's a message that feels crucial in our world today.
For sure.
But how do we put these lofty ideals into action? Talking about love and forgiveness is one thing, but what does that look like in everyday life?
That's where the rubber meets the road. Beit Yisrael offers some ways to think about embodying these principles in our daily lives, but ultimately it boils down to our individual choices and actions.
It sounds like we're about to get into the practical side of things. This feels like a good place to transition to the last part of our deep dive. We've explored the roots of baseless hatred, the power of unconditional love, the role of the Tzaddik, and Tikkun Olam. Where do we go from here? It feels like we've explored this huge map, all these complex ideas.
Yeah.
But now we need to figure out how to use it, you know?
Right. Like, how do we actually walk this path?
Exactly.
Beit Yisrael offers some pretty practical guidance.
Okay.
Remember their emphasis on inner transformation. That's the starting point with each of us individually.
So before we can even think about world peace,
Right.
we need to deal with the baseless hatred inside ourselves first.
Yeah, that's a humbling thought, right?
It is.
It's about recognizing that we're not above those seeds of judgment or resentment or prejudice.
Yeah.
Those can take root in any of us. We've all had those moments.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
But knowing that is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Actually changing those patterns feels overwhelming. Where do we even start?
Beit Yisrael really points to the power of consciously cultivating things like empathy, compassion, understanding.
Wow.
Not just hoping we're good people, but actively choosing to see the world through others' eyes.
I see. So less us versus them.
Exactly.
More seeking that common ground, that shared humanity we were talking about.
Yes, exactly.
But that's still pretty broad. Any concrete examples of how that plays out day to day?
Think about those tiny choices we make all the time.
Okay.
Like instead of road rage when someone cuts you off in traffic,
Yeah.
maybe take a moment and think, hey, they might be having a tough day.
Right.
Or instead of shutting down a conversation with someone who has different political views,
Yeah.
trying to actually understand where they're coming from.
Okay, so those small acts of kindness, those shifts in how we react, I can see how that could spread outward.
It does. Those little things add up.
But what about the bigger picture?
Yeah.
Like systemic injustice, ingrained discrimination.
Right.
How do these teachings apply on that scale?
That's where Tikkun Olam becomes a call to action, not just a nice idea.
Okay.
Beit Yisrael encourages us to actually do something to repair the world.
So it's both
Yeah.
inner work, A&D, going out and actually doing something.
Exactly.
It's like I can't just meditate my way to world peace.
Right. Got to get off the cushion and do something.
Got it.
And remember, it's not about having all the answers or being some superhero. It's about each of us contributing what we can in our own way.
I like that.
Think about Yosef again.
Okay.
He didn't just forgive his brothers.
Right.
He USD his position to help them to save lives.
Oh, wow.
He turned that personal pain into positive action.
That's a powerful connection.
It is.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
History, theology, practical steps.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, what happens if we ignore all of this? Why should we care about all this?
Because, as the sages teach, baseless hatred has real consequences. It's at the root of so much suffering, division, and conflict in the world. But on the flip side, love, compassion, understanding, those are the forces that heal and redeem us.
It's not just about being nice. It's recognizing that our choices actually matter.
Exactly.
They impact the world around us.
They really do.
This has been so insightful. Honestly, kind of a personal challenge, too.
It is.
Thank you for walking us through this.
Happy to do it.
And to our listeners out there,
Yes.
we'll leave you with this thought. What's one small act of love, of kindness, that you can offer the world today?
How can you be part of that Tikkun Olam,
Yeah.
repairing the world?
Yeah, and bring us all closer to a future filled with understanding.
Compassion and true unity.
May your journey be filled with peace and light.